And we're going. Okay.
Okay.
So the first question. So just kind of because I'm gonna separate all your answers and then I'm gonna put it to a PowerPoint with some pictures. I'll send it to you when it's done so you can see it.
Okay.
So what were you doing before you joined the military?
I was in college.
And what were you doing at college? Like,
I was majoring in aeronautics, learning how to fly and taking all the classes, plus the core college classes. In it was called Mount San Antonio College in California. They have a flight. They still do have a flight program. Graduate with a associate's degree and a commercial pilot's license.
Okay. And what was your initial motivation to enlist in the military?
All my life, I always wanted to be a military pilot from the time I was a little kid. And that's all I ever wanted to do. So my motivation was initially those 2 years of college. The Navy had a program called NAVCAD, Naval Aviation Cadet Program. It was called NAVCAD. And you only had to have 2 years of college. So at the end of those 2 years of college, I went down to the Navy to sign up and become a Navy pilot. And being from San Diego, and I was a Navy town, that was what I wanted to do. Anyway, I took their battery of written tests and interviews and everything, and I passed everything with flying colors. In fact, there was about 70 of us there for the sign up and everything, and taking the test. And I was the only one invited back for the oral. Anyway, and I got through the oral. Then they sent me down to take a flight physical. And there was no doctor on duty. They just had a enlisted man corpsman on duty, and he did everything, and everything was cool. And the last thing he did was a vision test. And he said I had a slight astigmatism. And I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "Well, someday you need to wear glasses." And he reaches into his desk drawer and comes out with a stamp and stamps on the paperwork, "Rejected, bad eyes," something like that. And I was devastated because I wanted to be a carrier pilot. It was so bad. And anyway, so what I didn't know, because I was pretty young, I was about 19 or 20 years old. And what I didn't know is I could have appealed that. He never told me that. So, and I thought it was kind of weird because at the same time I was taking my flight physical, there was a bunch of active duty pilots taking theirs, and half of them were wearing glasses. So I didn't understand why they would say I couldn't come in because someday I needed to wear glasses. Anyway, but they rejected me. So next I went to the Marine Corps. Marine Corps says, "Well, we're part of the Navy, so if they're not going to let you in because they say your vision and we can't let you in." And then the Air Force recruiter says, "Well, you need 4 years of college." And I was so gung-ho ready to go right then. I didn't want to go back to school for another 2 years. So he says, "Come back after you have a 4-year degree and we'll get you in." Anyway, so the Army recruiter was sitting there. They were all in the same office complex. And the Army guy heard all this stuff. And I started heading out the door. He said, "You ever thought about flying helicopters?" And I said, "No, why?" He started telling me about the Army helicopter pilot program. It was called WARWAC, Warrant Officer Rotary Wing Aviation Course, is what it stood for. And so he talked me into signing up with the Army, and I ended up going to Army flight school after I finished basic training. So, because I always had the motivation to be a military pilot. Plus, I always figured it was everybody's duty to serve one way or the other. And I always thought, for me, the best way would be the military. So I had no compunctions about going in the military. So anyway, I ended up going in the Army instead.
Did
like the last choice.
The last choice, and you ended up in the Army. Did you enlist prior to the commencement of Vietnam, or did you enlist?
Well, Vietnam started for us in 1961. Actually, earlier than that, in the late 50s, we had advisors over there. Then they started sending the first helicopter units over in 1961. So I enlisted in the Army in the end of 1963, and I went in April of '64. There was a waiting list to get to flight school.
So was I guess was how am I gonna say it? Was like standing up for the country and like being a part of the war and serving in that part a factor in joining, or was it just the prior experiences you had?
It was a factor in joining. I wasn't afraid to go to war. All my uncles had been to war. My dad never did because he had bad asthma, so he couldn't go in the military in World War II. But all my uncles had been, and some of them were quite. My uncle Bert ended up getting nominated for the Congressional Medal of Honor, but he turned it down because of one reason or another. But he turned it down, and he got a next highest, I think, is a Legion of Merit, or I can't remember what is the next highest. But anyway, he got that instead of the Medal of Honor. But he would never talk about the war. In fact, when I told him I was going to join the Army, he told me to go back and pray about it. He said, "You really don't want to do that." But I was already dead set I was going.
So, what before you went to war? What was your idea about? I guess like what did you go to fight for, or what was your idea of what you were fighting?
Well, I was ardent anti-communist, so the fact that we had there was an organization at that time called SEATO, Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, which the United States was part of, and Vietnam was part of. Basically, it says if you're attacked, the others will come and help defend you. So, and I was ardent anti-communist, so I felt it was my duty to go over there and do it. Like the last, I think about at the end of the last month, the beginning of the last month of flight school, they had us fill out what we call dream sheets. Where do you want to go after flight school? I put down Vietnam because that's where I figured I was going to go anyway, and I wanted to go over there. And while we were in flight school, they're teaching us a lot about what was going on over there and how you fly over there and everything. So I just wanted to be part of it. So I volunteered to go.
So what was your experience like starting in basic training through flight school and then first getting to Vietnam? Like how did that all?
Okay, well, in basic training, went to Fort Ord, California, which is no longer an Army base. I think it's a reserve base now, Army Reserve Base for National Guard. But anyway, it was a big military base where I did basic training on the West Coast. And went there for 8 weeks, did everything you're supposed to do there. I got there 10 days before my regular basic training group. Those of us that were going to be going to flight school, they got us there early and they sent us to leadership training. So we were actually assistants to the DIs, and didn't mean the DIs were slacked up on us. They didn't at all. But in fact, they act like they expected more out of us than anybody else. But we were like the assistants to the drill instructors. We wore armbands with stripes on them and all that. But we got about 10 days of training for that. Then the rest of the basic training group showed up, and we were there waiting for them and helped in I don't know, we didn't help with the training, but what we could, we helped with them because we'd already been there for 10 days and had some leadership training. So we were trying to help them get through basic training. Anyway, we did that. Then I had a couple weeks off, leave. And then I went to Texas, Mineral Wells, Texas, Fort Walters, Texas, which is where the Army had its primary helicopter school. And we went there. Hi, Natalie. Anyway, we got there and we had to go to what's called pre-flight training. It's like OCS, Officers Candidate School. And they really put it to us. They did everything to us. we had to go out for PT, physical training, every morning before breakfast, before our chow or whatever we called it. I don't remember anymore. Anyway, and everywhere we went, we had to run. We could not walk, not allowed to walk. The only time you're allowed to walk was after your meal, walking back to your barracks. So they didn't want you, puking on the way back to your barracks. And because it was really hot there in Texas, really hot. And I was there doing this in the summertime, so it was really, really hot. And in fact, the first time I fell out in formation, it was probably about 105 or something, and really and you had to keep your boots and your shoes spit shine. So I was standing out there in formation, and this DI, we call them TAC officers, and in flight school and OCS are called TAC officers. He started screaming at me about me not getting my boots polished. I said, I did polish them. He said, you're lying. And I looked down, and all the polish had been in my boots melted off. I mean, melted. And oh no, I said, I did polish them. Anyway, there was a trick to do that, to fix that. And I learned real fast how to do that so they wouldn't melt off in the hot sun. But anyway, everything we did, we went to meals, we had to sit on only the first 4 inches of the chair and sit very erect, and you ate like you're at attention, one hand in your lap, your other on your fork, and you just put some food on your fork and like that. We call eating 4 squares or 3 squares a day. We call them eating squares. Anyway, everything was like that during this pre-flight training. We showed up with over 200 people for our class, and after pre-flight training, we were down to under 100. They kicked it because they evaluated them. They weren't officer material or something, so they kicked them out of pre-flight training. And then we finally got to go to the flight line and start flying, and we fly half a day, and the other half we go to ground school. It's called ground school. All your different courses you had to take. We had to take courses on maintenance of the type aircraft we were flying. We had to take navigation courses, meteorology courses, you name it, we had to take it. And I trained in the called the Hiller, military call it a Hiller OH-23D or E, depending on the version. But anyway, that's what I trained on. They had another helicopter there called a TH-55, but it was for people who had shorter legs. I was too tall for it. So I got to fly in the 23D, which was a bigger helicopter. Anyway, that's what our initial training was in that, there at Fort Walters. And we trained until we passed all of our flight tests and academic tests. And you had to have a minimum of 90 hours, flight hours, to graduate and go off to Fort Rucker, Alabama, where the advanced training was at. And I did all that and satisfied all that. Most of my class had, and then they got a communique from Fort Rucker that they wanted you to show up with 100 hours of flight time, but we'd all passed our check rides and everything, so they told us to just go check out some aircraft and fly them until you had an additional 10 hours. So until we had a total of 100 hours training. So that's what we did. We just flew and flew, so we didn't get held over very long, just about 2 days is all. And anyway, then we went to Fort Rucker, checked in, and they had us start flying call it Sikorsky H-19. It was a big helicopter with a big reciprocating engine in the nose. It was actually the engine comes off, they use on old DC-3s. And that's what we flew until we finished, called tactics. We'd go out in the field and live in tents and all this stuff and go on mock combat assaults and all that. And that's the helicopter we used for that. When we finished tactics, we had to go to instrument training and transition training to the Huey. So our instrument training and transition training were all in the Huey. We probably got another 40 hours or 50 hours in the Huey. And then we graduated. about 9 months later, from the time we started. Now they have fewer aircraft to train with, and the aircraft they train with are so expensive, and they're so much more complicated than the ones we flew. Flight school is now 2 years long instead of 9 months long. So guys now are in their flight school a lot longer than we were. Anyway, then I got 4 weeks off after flight school and went straight to Vietnam with a good friend of mine I went to college with, named John Hunter. We were on the same flight together to Vietnam. Well, actually, from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and then we got a shuttle bus from San Francisco to Travis Air Force Base in Central California, and that's where we flew out of, was Travis Air Force Base. Anyway, we got to Travis, my whole flight school class, other than a couple of people that didn't go to Vietnam. They were married and they put in for Europe and they got Europe, but they eventually went to Vietnam. Everybody eventually went to Vietnam. This is my flight school class, except for we did have a couple National Guard pilots that trained with us, and they didn't know. They just went back to their units. But anyway, we went after my leave. We went straight to Vietnam, and you get there in Saigon, and they put you in a repo depot, replacement depot, where replacement pilots would go until you were assigned. And got there, and even though they gave us all these shots to go overseas, and you get there, and they say, "Oh, you didn't get enough shots," so they give us more shots. We hung out for a couple of days, and then we went in, and they assigned us what unit we were going to. And I was assigned to the 145th Combat Aviation Battalion, and the specific company size unit assigned to was the 118th Assault Helicopter Company out of Bien Hoa, which is about 45, 50 miles north of Saigon, and that's where I flew out of Bien Hoa. And got there about 3 in the afternoon, 3:30, pouring down rain, and they come pick you up in a Jeep at the helicopter. There's no roof on the Jeep. By the time I got to the CO's office to check in, I was drenched, just soaking wet. And anyway, he was kind of briefing me and this guy named Larry Mobley, who was also in my flight school class. Now, he and I went to the 118th, and we checked in with the CO, Major Stewart, and gave us our assignments. And I was just a green officer, and he says, "Hey, I need a airfield duty officer tonight." And he says, "Lombard, you're it." So my first baptism of fire was that night. I had no idea what to expect, what to do. They sent me over to the company headquarters, and they said, and I said, "What do we do? What do I do?" And they says, "There's all those SOP books right there, standard operating procedures." He says, "Get yourself familiar with those and tell you what to do under different circumstances." So I was sitting there flipping through the book, and I hear a boom. I said, "What was that?" I turned around, the sergeant was heading out the door. And I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Those are incoming mortars. They're about to go off. Get yourself into a bunker." And I says, "Well, what am I supposed to do as the duty field officer?" And he says, "Well, you need to reinforce the gates and reinforce the motor pool guards and the flight line guards." So I grabbed me a private, and we grabbed a couple of privates. We grabbed the Deuce and a half truck. We headed off down the flight line, dropped off another guard. Then we went over to the motor pool and dropped off a couple of guards. And we went and reinforced the gate. And although South Vietnamese soldiers manned the gate, half of them we think were Viet Cong. So we always, when there's trouble, we always made sure we had the American guards there too. But anyway, that was what my baptism of fire on the first night, getting mortared. But nobody got hurt. A couple of aircraft got hit, but just with shrapnel, and they weren't bad at all. They mainly missed. Anyway, then the very next day.
That was on your first day?
That was on my first day. And then the next day, we had to go see the flight surgeon. This is after we got tons of shots before we left the U.S. to go to Vietnam. Then we got the battalion that made us take more shots. Then we got to him, and he looks, he says, "Oh, yeah, you didn't get a big enough dose of Gamma Goblin." And it's a big shot they give you in your rear end. And when they give you that shot, it's a huge syringe. You sit down on that, and you feel like you're sitting on a football on one cheek. And it hurts like heck. And they said, "Okay, you're cleared to fly." And I said, "What do you mean I'm cleared to fly?" I said, "Go out the flight line, you got to fly." So the guy's waiting for you. So I get out there, and I could hardly sit in that aircraft, but I flew for about 6 hours that first day as a co-pilot. It took me about 3 days, I think, for that shot to wear off. Boy, it hurt. That was my first 2 days.
So that's when you first got.
Actually, a total of about 3, because the first day was orientation back in Saigon. Then we got shot, so we went for it.
And then the first day at your, I guess your headquarters, you got.
Yeah.
Second day in Vietnam total, you got mortar shot at you.
Yeah.
All right. So, what was? We'll come back to that one. What was your first actual flight mission like for you? Like nerves and how it went and everything.
We were taking a resupplies to a special forces camp. I can't even remember the name of it. I just know that when we got in the vicinity, we had to drop low level, because if you flew in at any altitude, they can hit you too easy because you're not going very fast. But if you drop down to low level and raced across the rice paddies, it was harder for them, because they could hear you coming, but until they could see you, they didn't know where you're coming from. So in this one particular special forces camp, the guy I was flying with, and I think it was a guy named Rex McAfee. So I flew with him an awful lot. But anyway, I think it may have been him, I'm not sure. Anyway, he says, "This is how we get into this place." And he says, we were actually, probably the skids of our helicopter were less than a foot off the water surface of the rice paddies. And then we got to this big foresty area, and a road went into it and wound around. Anyway, he said, "We just get up high enough so our rotor blades don't hit the trees, but we keep the fuselage down below the trees. Just follow the road." So we're just twisting and turning. And he says, "Okay, we're coming up on the village or the compound." And he says, "We got to," and we're going really fast, as fast as that helicopter would go. And he had to put it into a big flare, the nose up high, to slow it down. And here was a Jeep sitting there with 2 special forces soldiers waiting for us. And I think we were delivering radios or something to them. I don't remember what our cargo was, but it was some tactical gear, maybe some more ammunition or something, I don't recall. Anyway, that was my very first actual mission, was doing that. Then a couple days later, we had a full company combat assault where we fly in, load up troops, we fly in formation and go into a LZ, landing zone, LZ. Anyway, because I was the newest lift pilot they had, they throw you into the fire and make you do it. And they made me be the lead pilot. Everybody had to fly off of me. I had to navigate to the LZ and make the approach and everything, and couldn't be too steep or people wouldn't be able to land behind you. So, but I did a good job. They told me I did an outstanding job. And we had to cross this bay, this part of the ocean, the bay, to go across. So everybody's puckered. If you lose an engine, you're dropping the bay, and it's full of sharks. You could see them from up there. But anyway, that's how it was my first combat assault.
So, during this time when you were there, how did you stay in touch with your family, and how was communicating with home?
Back in those days, the only way you could do it was by mail, by letters. And one of my buddies had a little tape deck, and he would, talk into it and send the tapes home. He had 7 kids. And anyway, that's how he did. He didn't write letters, but I wrote letters.
Sorry, my mic is muted because if I talk, I don't want to go over here. So I was talking to myself. But what were a couple of your most memorable experiences while you were over there?
I really like flying the humanitarian missions. We would take, we call them pigs and rice missions, where we'd take actually live pigs in cages in our aircraft and bags of rice, and we'd take them out to villages that were needed foods and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed them because all the kids would come out and greet you and act like you're the best friend in the world. And I really enjoyed those. It made me feel like what we were doing in Vietnam was for those people, those kids and their families. So I enjoyed those missions. I enjoyed combat assault missions too. What I didn't like is when they were shooting at you. And that was most of the time.
That was most of the time.
Huh?
You're just like, that was most of the time.
Oh yeah, I can't remember a day went by I didn't get shot at. You know, you could hear them go, even though the noise of the aircraft was pretty loud. When a round went by, it's going supersonic, so it makes a big crack, and you can hear it go by. And we were given a reconnaissance ride to some politicians and a couple of generals over what we call War Zone D, which was an area that the Viet Cong totally controlled, and you didn't like flying over that unless you had a bunch of other helicopters. So we were flying right along the edge of it, so give them orientation where it was and all this stuff. And we heard a crack go by, and my door gunner on my side heard it too, and he had seen the flash of the gun, so he had his M60 machine gun, and he started pounding away, shooting at him. And it scared all those people to death. They didn't realize they were in a combat zone, I guess. And the girls, what's going on? What's going on? I said, well, we're receiving fire. We're just returning it. Anyway, they don't like machine guns getting shot at them from the air. So they'd take one or two shots at you, then they go hide somewhere because they know they're going to get shot at. But it was funny because the colonel and this, I think he was from the Department of Defense, a civilian guy, just scared the heck out of them. Weren't expecting them.
Oh wow. So from the start of your service in Vietnam to the end of your service in Vietnam, how did your idea of war change?
The only thing I saw was when I first got there, there was very few U.S. ground troops. A battalion of Marines had landed up at Da Nang about the same time I got there to secure the air base, and the Army sent 173rd Airborne Brigade out of that time they were stationed at Okinawa to Bien Hoa, where I was at to secure our base. But they came after I had gotten there. But that's what I saw. I started seeing the Americanization of the war. But the way we fought the war didn't change at all. Instead of flying South Vietnamese Army troops and Marines, we started flying the 173rd Airborne Brigade an awful lot. But we still flew the Vietnamese too. They didn't have very many helicopters of their own yet. But so we were flying them an awful lot.
And so from all your service over there and your experience, how did it affect your life after the war? Like, how has it affected your life since? That is a lot.
Well, you know, I got badly wounded and spent a lot of months in the hospital, and now I have migraines almost every day. I was having seizures for a while, but those went away. But that's how it affected my life. I ended up having to take an early retirement from my employer when I was 50. Was I 57 or 58? I think I was 58. Yeah. Grandma says it affected my temperament. Probably PTSD, because I'm being treated for PTSD now. She says I came home nasty and mean. I was a road rager. People cut me off, I'd chase them down. I wanted to fight them.
Ooh, I can see you doing that.
I'd say, leave it alone, leave it alone.
Would you?
I'm treated for it now, so I'm cool.
Would you be okay sharing what happened at the end for you with getting shot and wounded?
Yeah, that letter that I wrote your mother.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can share that. That's fine.
Okay.
Do you have a copy of it?
I believe I do, or I can ask my mom to scan it and send it to
Yeah, I wouldn't know where my copy's at, but I did write her a letter and gave it to her, and Chris brought one too.
Okay. So I'll use that and then just type it up at the end. All right. Well,
that's how our family got started in the church, was that experience.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else about your experiences you'd like to add or share that I didn't ask you?
One of the other things I like doing, my unit sponsored a orphanage there. I can't remember the name of the orphanage now. It's been so many years. But I enjoyed going over. We would take food over to them and supplies and stuff for the kids, and take toys over. We would recruit, family and friends back home to send us stuff for the orphanage, and that was always fun to go over there and take care of help take care of the kids and stuff.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, Grandpa, I really appreciate it.
Okay.
I learned a lot of stuff I didn't know before. Natalie is amazed at how well you remember everything.
I don't have Alzheimer's yet.
No, not yet. She's like, I think you said.
No, I just think like you had details. You were like, I got there around like 3 or 4.
Yeah. Actually, it was 3:13.